Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Artist Alchemy. We're here today with Geith St. Fraser, aka Sinjin, and he is the fiddle player, an amazing fiddle player in the band One Eyed Riley. Hi, Sinj.
Hello. How you doing? Great to see you, Justin.
Good to see you too. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about you. You're a virtuoso violin player, but you're also a music teacher. Tell us some about your performances and some about your teaching.
Well, virtuoso is a word that I'm glad you're saying it. We all aspire. I think every musician aspires to be the best that they can be. So I appreciate that sentiment. But um, I, I've been playing violin since a very young age. So when I was younger, I would do more classical performances, and but as I got older and I kind of came back full force into music again, I've really enjoyed the folk and the Celtic and the trad, and I've been enjoying sort of finding my way through some blues and punk and rock, and just really trying to find ways to play in all those kind of different genres. I come from a family of educators. My mom was a tremendous educator, so I've always had a strong appreciation for teaching. And I mean, I was a computer tech for a while, so I enjoyed that because I liked to help people overcome their fears of technology and feel more confident. And so it's just more of the same with teaching music. It's been a passion of my life. You know, for my whole life, I've always loved music and wanted to be part of it. And so it was just sort of a natural progression to find my way into teaching music. I love I love the potential of giving something to someone that they're going to be able to enjoy their entire lives. That the enjoyment, let's say they're an 18-year-old today, the enjoyment that they're going to get out of music today versus the person they become in 30 to 40 years, that person's going to also enjoy music, but in a very different way. And so it's this really cool thing that you carry with you your whole life. And you're going to bump into these other weird creatures called musicians and have all these wonderful sort of interactions and collaborations. And so my hope is with each of my students that I'm giving them that potential future. So that's why I love teaching, and it's just something that it's been such a good part of my life. I can only hope that I can give someone enough courage to turn that key themselves and walk through that door and go down that path themselves. So
That's fantastic. I got to say though, virtuoso. That is actually a good way to describe you. I remember the first time that I saw you play. It was for Irish Night at YubaSutterArts in
yeah,
Marysville, and I
that was a
thought,
lot of fun.
wow, like this is the best fiddle player I've ever seen before in my entire life. And then I got talking to the guys in the band there, where you guys were taking a break. They said, yeah, and he's not. He's kind of having a bad day. And I'm like, that's his bad. This is his bad day. Wow, he's really even more amazing than I thought.
Well, I don't know. I appreciate it. It's one of those things. I guess I perspective is a very interesting thing. From the inside of this skin looking out, what I hear needs a lot of work still. And so, you know, um, and I don't know if I practiced 8 hours every day and I lived to 100 years old, I think there would still need to be another 8 hours of practice on my hundredth one day of existence. There's just so much. So, like, let's say you became the greatest classical violinist in the world. Well, how are you with blues? Are you okay with jazz? Can you play Hungarian music? You know what? So it's basically one of those. It's an awesome whole that you carry around with you, because it's a hole that you can just endlessly throw into. But unlike what they call a boat, which is a hole that you just throw money into, music is a hole that you can throw everything into, and it's just going to keep enriching your life more and more and more, and it's going to turn you into a different person. And so it's one of those things that you can't put too much effort towards it. You can always do something more with it. But in all fairness, that's not just a music thing. What you do as a chef, you're always coming up with different creations. I imagine your mind is always working not only on the business side, but the creative side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that there's creativity in, I think, has a very similar trajectory.
Truth. So, how's it been going the last couple of months with the pandemic, and what's it been like being sheltered in place in Sacramento?
Well, it's honestly, first of all, I have to say that I feel incredibly fortunate that I have a job that allows me to telework. So I know that there are a lot of entertainers out there right now scrambling, hustling, doing whatever they can. Aaron in the band I think, has got like 34 students that he's teaching virtually. So there's a lot of folks that were very, very, very hardworking that are just trying to make ends at this point. And so, not having to experience that because of my day job, I feel incredible gratitude for. So, and honestly, I love Sacramento. Sacramento's been nothing but good to me. Met wonderful people here. Played a lot of fun music on stage and off stage with just a host of different musicians. Played all over the valley. Met wonderful, everything from people just coming to listen and just accidentally walking in, to folks like yourself, entrepreneurs that we build a relationship with. And it's one of those things that when when there's all these things that you don't think about that are going to happen to you when you start doing stuff like playing music. If you're going out and you're gigging, you're meeting all these new people, and you get to learn about them, and they sort of begin weaving into your life. And it's so the whole shelter in place has also been really hard, because all these people that I care about, and like I was saying, a lot of them are entrepreneurs. I worry greatly. Andrew and I, we've spoken about you. We're like, gosh, we got to go up and support them when we can, because we want you to be here at the end of it. We want, places like Father Patty's and all that to still be here, not just for purely selfish reasons, but because you guys are awesome, and you're part of the tapestry of this area. And so my greatest fear is that when we all sort of come out of this, these wonderful, non-corporate places that have all this wonderful local flavor might not all be there. And so I worry for my friends. I worry for my fellow entertainers, creative folk, that I just hope that everyone is surviving this the best that they can. I don't even know what to say to that, other than that my heart's with them all and you guys, and I wish that we can get out of this and get back to some kind of what we were talking about before, some kind of normal, whatever that is. Who knows? It's hard to even guess at this point. So
Hey, so you were saying a little bit ago about growing up with an educator. Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I was born in Danbury, Connecticut, but we lived in Ridgefield. We were there till I was 5. We moved out to Rustic View in Missouri, which is a little neighborhood in St. Louis. Um, my mom was a consummate educator. My dad was an educator early on, and then he went into administration. Um, my mom was the kind of educator that I remember being in her classroom, and grown-up students would come back and be like, "I hated English. You taught me to fall in love with it. I'm a reporter now." Things like that. She was just one of those educators that it really didn't matter what kind of way you needed to learn, even if it was a significant disability, she could find ways of reaching you. And just time and time again, students came back, and we're just like immensely grateful to her for what she had done for them. And so I watched a lot of that, and I learned a lot of important lessons about teaching that have helped me throughout my life, about just simple communications, listening skills, watching people, and trying to have a seeing eye. That what isn't really as important as your ability to convey it. If you have the greatest font of knowledge, but I can't get you to understand any of it, what good is it? So it's about taking the time to learn a person and understand how they consume knowledge, and then speak to the knowledge through that filter. And so I try to do that with teaching music. So that's kind of what I got from living with with educators is really, if someone's not learning, more than likely it's not the student's fault, it's the educator's fault. But as in all things, there's always exceptions to every rule.
Right. So we were talking a little bit before about being a virtuoso and different styles of music. I mean, you can't just know one kind. Do you incorporate that into learning with your students as well?
Yeah, I would say when I teach music, I try to teach it to a level that they can choose to do whatever they want with it. Um, I love classical music. I would say a failing, in my opinion, about classical music education is a lot of times, especially with the violin, the last time kids play it is in high school. And I think that one of the things, and I try to explain this to my students, like, look, I'm going to teach you to a classic. I'm going to make sure that your left hand's articulation is going to be accurate. I'm going to teach you how to bow absolutely precisely correctly if you allow me to teach that to you. But classical music isn't the beginning and the end to the violin. It's been in every genre of music. And so I try to show them that there's multiple choices for them. That there's folk, there's bluegrass, there's jazz, there's country, there's rock, there's punk, there's thrash. I mean, and there's classical. So, but if I teach you to a classical level, which is probably the most complex style that you'll play, you then have the ability to do whatever the heck it is you want with it once it's yours. So I try to teach to a classical level best that I can, but I encourage creativity. The pieces that I teach range from Celtic tunes to sort of Americana to classical pieces. I teach in a more traditional method. I do use a little bit of the Suzuki method, but I believe very strongly in fundamentals, and so I have a whole case of music down here of different books of technique and whatnot, and I love giving my students what I call finger twisters, and I have one exercise that works the mind as much as it works the body physically. That it's very non-linear, so it forces you to not get complacent in your mind while you're playing. You have to be very present in what you're doing. And so, I mean, that's one of the things that I also teach with my music is there are life lessons in this. That honestly, one of the most important things to learn in this is perseverance, because any music instrument is hard to learn. More than being talented, more than anything, having the ability to persevere through something that makes you that you're like, I am terrible at this. I haven't made one good sound yet, and still push through that is a very hard thing to do. And so I applaud anyone that decides to pick something up as complicated as a musical instrument and fight through that, because it's hard. I mean, you're learning as much about yourself as you are learning the instrument when you learn an instrument, because it's going to tear you down inside. I mean, I don't care how great you are. Itzhak Perlman is going to play a show and come off that stage, at least internally, and go, wow, I need to go home and work. It doesn't matter. 900, 10,000 people just heard him and was like, that was the most amazing thing I ever heard. All creative people are the same way. The most recent thing that we saw or we did or whatever, it could be better. It could be better. So that's just part of the whole creative process. And so I try to help my students understand that you know, you're going to look at someone and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I could never be them. But understand that that person that you look at, that you think that about, is thinking the exact same way you're thinking about yourself. They're like, ah, boy, that person over there is really good, and I need to get better to be that person. So it's important to know that we're all on the same road. It's just we may be on different portions of it. You know, some of us might be further along than others, but you know, it's just about how you get down that road. You know, just don't stop going down it. You know, it's worth it. It's worth the time. There's good stuff down the road.
Yeah, yes, there is. Do you have your students listen to any particular artists when you're like, hey, we're learning this style of music, you should listen to this guy or whatever?
You know what? I don't. I have a lot of still very young students, and we're still focusing on fundamentals. Usually, what I do for them is because it's well, that's not totally true. I guess with a few of my adult students, I have done that. I have introduced them to different styles and different musicians to listen to. I don't really go with one. But with my younger students, what I kind of try to focus on is the problem is I want them to not be discouraged, and early on that's a very easy thing when you can't make one note sound good and you're listening to some person just like, you know, I will never get there. So what I try to do is I'll play it for them so they can hear it, and I'll play it for them several times, and I'll work with them slowly piecemeal through the piece, and because I'm teaching how to practice. I'm teaching all those kinds of things. It's not just I'm teaching the violin. It's all the things that accompany it. as well. And learning how to practice effectively is almost as important as learning technically how to play the instrument. So if you don't know how to practice efficiently, you can practice for 6 hours and get what you would have got done in half an hour if you just really focused. So I don't know. I also I I don't know. I think a lot just in life about what's my effect on this moment, and I one thing I don't want to do, because I know I'm a big influence as the educator in that situation. I don't want to jade them to think that, like, oh well, if I don't do Celtic stuff, he's going to be bummed out. I want them to have all these different possibilities in their mind and go for whatever they want. So I love having discussions with my students, but like I said, some of them are pretty young, so we're talking about very basic levels of music at this point. But I've had a couple others. Actually, one that's started going out and trying to play in local orchestras and whatnot, and just starting to get out into the fray. And I'm very proud of him. He's doing a great job. I have another young student that I've had her from the very beginning, and she's really coming along nicely. She's graduating high school this year as salutatorian, and just has come along tremendously. She's really working hard, and I'm very excited for her. She's really starting to grasp some more complex technique, and we're starting to get into some fun stuff that she's having a lot of fun with, and so I'm excited for her because it seems like she's really enjoying it, and it's blossoming into something that she can beginning to have fun with, and so it's exciting to see that. I mean, for me, it's like that's the coolest thing in the world. Just when I see her play well and she's smiling, I'm like, yeah. Same thing with my other older student, where all of a sudden that light bulb comes on, and he was like, oh my gosh. And now I've turned him into a violin junkie. I guess he sits around at work watching violin videos. So, so music is such a wonderful thing, and it's an interesting thing too, because I watched a documentary not too long ago where they were talking about the uselessness of music. Like, it doesn't do, if you just go off of the base of what a human needs, it's useless. But humans from the beginning of time have done something, singing, vocalizing, whatever, banging things together. And so it's this really strange need, obviously, of the human psyche. And even though it must be food for the mind. That's the only thing that it kind of, like, the documentary sort of basically was their end result. Their thought process was that it has to be, basically food for the mind. The mind needs it, and that's why it's always been part of being a human. So music is a fascinating thing. It's very hard to quantify by individual what it is. It's different for everyone. So, and I mean, obviously you guys love music as well. So it's having it as part of your business. It's just it's that weird thing that when you bring it into a room, the room can just get a lot brighter. I mean, it could be a great place, but then if you get a good energy of music, it can just sort of elevate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those cool things. I mean, like bagpipes. Bagpipes, for the longest time, that was considered a battlefield weapon, because they would play them. They would basically surround an enemy out of sight with bagpipes because they echo really well over the hills. And so it was it would strike fear into an enemy, because all of a sudden there's this disembodied wailing happening all around them, and you can't really pinpoint it. And so all of a sudden, this solitude that you thought you had has now been broken by this echoing rage instrument that, and then half-naked screaming people coming over the hills at you. It's not a good day for some folks. So music's a fascinating thing. It's powerful. It's powerful. So it's just
Yeah, it is.
I feel lucky to even call myself lightly a musician. It's not a wasted life at all.
No, very good at it. Very good at it.
Thank you.
So, so you started when you were 6, right?
7.
And we were just talking about
7.
7. 7. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Right, hang on.
5. If we're talking, yeah. I started piano when I was 5, violin when I was 7.
Okay, all right. So, when was the point? I know you've got a bunch of young students, and you don't want them to get overwhelmed. Where was your point? Like your student in high school, where was your point where you realized that really was something that you were really into, and not just something that your parents were like, "Hey, try this out and see if you like it"?
Well, first of all, my parents never said try it out. It was my drive. That was my thing. I wanted to play music instruments since I can think. The first thing I played probably was a marimba in some music room. I picked up mouths and started bang, 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 bang. But apparently, like, my mom told me that before I was born, if she cranked up like Beethoven or whatever, I would kick to the beat of the music. So I've been apparently into music pre-birth. So I started learning piano when I was 5, and I loved it. My grandmother, Florence Fraser, was a concert pianist. So actually my first instrument was my grandmother's 1934 Steinway & Sons Baby Grand. That was her practice instrument. And she unfortunately passed a year before I was born, so I never met her. But I loved the piano, and it was a beautiful instrument that I got to play on, and it made it easy to enjoy playing. But we had season tickets to the St. Louis Symphony at Powell Hall, and I would regularly go watch the entire orchestra play. And which is just, as a young boy, it's such an amazing experience to hear that coming at you, because it's such a complete sound, and there's so many interweaving rhythms and harmonies, and it's just musical crack. It just amazed me and astounded me. But very early on, I fell in love with the violins and the violin section, the things that they would do with the music and how they would weave in and out, and what they could do with the bow. It just warped my mind. But I was a stupid little kid, and I don't know why, but I got it into my head that little kids had to learn the piano, and because I never saw anyone but old people playing violin, and I never asked my parents, because they would have set me straight on that, but I just was like, well, little kids have to play the piano. When I get older, I'll get to play the violin. Well, I transferred schools when I was 7, halfway through the year, in first grade. And which, those who know me, I can be a little stubborn, and that's not a new thing. I had really butted heads in first grade with the teacher, and was having. This is something that would happen through all the years of school. I've always butted heads with my teacher. I think a little differently. I don't fit into the proper mold that I was supposed to. So, my mom put me into a different school. I think it was a Montessori school. I don't exactly remember, but I remember the first day I walked into school, and my very soon-to-be best friend, Stephen Trankman, who I didn't know at the time, was there playing the violin. And I was just like, a kid in my class is playing the violin. I went home that night and I was like, Mom, little kids can play violin too. And that was it. I have wanted to play the violin since I saw one being played. No one had to force it into my hand. And very quickly, Gayla Rogovic was my first teacher. And if you're watching this, Gayla, I love you. Thank you. She's a wonderful lady that cultivated my love for the instrument. And eventually I transferred to a more traditional classical style with Sylvian Itkovici, which boy, he really, I learned a lot from him. Although I don't know how pleased you'd be that I'm doing Celtic rock instead of classical, but I appreciate the amazing technique that he imparted. He was absolutely brilliant. He was assistant concertmeister in the St. Louis Symphony. Just a brilliant, brilliant man, but tough as nails. Tough as nails. It was like, compliments didn't come often, but boy, when he was like, "Okay, that was good. You practiced well," he'd be like, "Oh, yeah," because he was, I'm sure you've met like old world, Eastern Bloc Romania, like hardcore, but they come from tough stock over there, and his mom so they were Jewish. His mom actually had to flee on foot from the Nazis.
Oh, wow.
And I thought Sylvian was a tough SOB. But when I met his mom, I met steel for the first time. Like, that woman was cut from adamantium. She was tough as nails. And I was like, oh, this is the filtered down version of that. So, but yeah, Sylvian is just a brilliant musician, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. All like bowing technique that still to this day is one of the things that allows me to play as well as I do. And so, I've been fortunate to have a couple of really brilliant instructors in my life. Instruction is a very important part of learning, because your instructor will see things that you don't see. So it's good to have another pair of eyes, especially skilled eyes, on what you're doing. So yeah, I was very fortunate to have those opportunities when I was younger. So it's been fun.
Hey, we got a message from Abby over here that says, "Is he going to play for us?" I think this might be the opportunity for you to show us those excellent bowing techniques.
All right, I'll start off with something sort of a little bit more tame. I'm just going to do. I know people have heard me do this before, but I like this one. It seems like a good place to start. This is most people have heard this in George Burns' Civil War, but this is Ashokan Farewell. So,
Yeah.
hope that came across okay.
That was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a cool little piece written in 1982 in New York. Everyone thinks it's old, but it's pretty recent. It's a beautiful piece, though. I love it.
Actually, I really like the quality of most music, how it's both old and new at the same time. And there's
Yeah.
so much of it that it can be new to the guy sitting next to you on the bus, and to you, it's old. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Hey, I know that was fantastic. I know that that you're playing with One Eyed Riley a lot. In fact, right? I mean, not right really at the moment, but
Yeah.
you guys keep picking up more and more and more gigs. Are you trying to? Do you get to jam out with anybody else, or?
Yeah, I've actually been very fortunate. Violin is a bit of a rarity, especially if you kind of play, rock and that kind of stuff. And so I, I I I don't really play necessarily one genre. Obviously, with One Eyed Riley, we're doing Celtic rock, Americana, and folk. A lot of our originals as well as a whole bunch of covers. So that, um, like last year we had 89 gigs. This year we were going to probably do better than that, and well, um, but I've played with the Pikeys many times. I think I've sat in with Whiskey and Stitches before. Dust in My Coffee. I, just a few, others I've been asked to record on some local musicians' albums and whatnot. So I've done that as well. I just honestly, I just love playing music. My hope is I just recently moved, and my hope is to eventually turn my house into sort of a jam house concert place, a place for musicians to come and hang out and play music, and just have a lot of impromptu shows and whatnot, and just have it be a music house. So that's sort of my dream. We're in the very early stages of getting in here, so that's down the road a bit. But I mean, I'll play with anyone. If I feel like I can bring something to it, I'll happily play with anyone. I love music, and honestly, the only way to learn and get better is to play with as many different people as you can. You don't want to get too stagnant.
If you could pick one person like that you got to jam with, that would be like the most exciting thing ever. Who would that be?
Oh my God. Well, honestly, I don't know if I want to use the word jam, but if I could have like a 4-hour lesson from Itzhak Perlman, where he just sat down with me for 4 hours, honestly, even if it was 10 minutes, I'd lose my mind. Itzhak Perlman for me has always been my epitome of the highest level that you can attain of virtuosity with a violin. I've seen him play klezmer, folk, of course, classical, which he's brilliant at. Most people's first introduction to him, I'm blanking the show. He was like 13 and he was on TV and he's playing Flight of the Bumblebee. And he's an amazing story himself. He's a polio survivor. When I saw him, he was still a lot younger, so he'd come on stage with crutches, and the concertmeister would carry out his violin. He now comes out in a rascal or whatever, but he is just unbelievable, and he's actually helped me a lot personally with the violin. I'm a big guy. I've gotten older, so I've shrunk a little bit. But at my height, I was 6'4", and I got big old gorilla mitts, and I was around 6 feet tall when I was like 10ish. And so I had huge hands. And I was really worried that my hands were getting too big to play the violin. And around that time, my parents took me to Powell Hall because Itzhak Perlman was playing. And it was a brilliant concert. And I waited in line to get back to the green room. And stood there, had him sign my program, talked to him for a moment. And when I went to shake his hand at the end, I realized he has bear paws and huge hands with thick fingers. And I'm like, okay. You just got to work with what you're bringing. You know, if hands are too big, figure out how to make them work still. It's on you. And so that really helped me to sort of get over that fear that I was turning into something that was not going to be able to play the violin. And so, and then just listening to all this, like I always have with me on my phone, and even when going way back, starting to date myself, a cassette of this. I always had Itzhak Perlman playing the 24 Paganini Caprices. And to me, that's just like musical crack. I just love it. Paganini, for his time, was known as the Devil's Fiddler. He was the rock star of his age. And Paganini wrote 24 caprices that exemplified different aspects of virtuosity. And there are certain ones that blend a bunch of the aspects together, much like the 24th, which kind of brings all of them into one last one. And it is out of this world. As far as just a still violin, no accompaniment, nothing else going on, just him playing. There's any way you look at it, from the clarity of tone to the amazing technical craftsmanship to just holy smokes, man! You just put it's one of those things that I just love listening to, and I never like to be without it. So Itzhak Perlman for me is the beginning and end.
That's awesome. I can't imagine. I mean, in my industry, I don't have like one guy that I look at or one girl that I look at that like that's like it should be Alice Waters or something, right? But it's not. I don't have that person where I'm looking at it going, yeah, that's it, because there's so much of it.
Well, in all fairness, it was hard to break down because there's a lot of musicians that I was like, but I thought about, I was thinking about the question, and I'm like, well, he's been my longest influence, so it's only fair that he gets the choice, because from a very early age and very personal, like I said, I shook his hand, and he didn't know at that moment what he had done for me, but I mean, that's a very personal thing. He basically, without knowing, gave me the confidence to press forward. And so, personally, he's affected me, and creatively, he's affected me. So I think because of that, it would have to be him.
Nice. So you're saying that you just moved and you want it to be a music house, a jam house.
Yes.
Did you move because you are getting married?
Yes, as a matter of fact. My lovely fiance, who is probably listening through the walls, Andrea, got engaged on the 1st of this year. I wanted to sort of have the fun of us having the whole year, from the very first day. I didn't want the second day to happen without proposing to her, and she's wonderful. She's everything I need, to make my life better. I can be very introspective and very in my head, and she's good at getting me out of that. And she's a good complement to what I am. and she makes me a better person. So I think that's all we can really hope for in someone else that we fall for. So she's a wonderful lady, and we're buying this house together, and she loves music and used to play piano. I'm nudging her to play it some more because I want to have an accompanist here at the house. So, um, but yeah, as soon as this whole COVID thing can get to the point where, and it's weird. It has to get to the point where people feel comfortable about being seen out doing things, because I don't want people to come over here and get harassed because they deigned to break a quarantine or something. So I want to make this place a very positive place. I want to make it a fun place for music. And so, I mean, if it needs to take a little bit longer, then, so be it. But it'll just be that much better when that time comes around. But I can't wait. And we're going to hopefully be getting married here pretty soon. October 24th is the date we have on the calendar, but who knows? I'm hoping that it's going to work, but if we got to drive to Vegas, we'll just do that, because I'm only going to wait so long, and I think she's only going to wait so long, and then we'll just make this thing happen one way or the other.
She genuinely is a wonderful woman. My daughters love her. My wife loves her. Actually, I know Annabelle and I can't wait for this whole thing to be lifted so we can go out on a double date.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, it's always funny when we would come up and play your kitchen, because I was like, I really don't think you're coming up for the music. Pretty sure you're just coming up for Annabelle and Charlie. And if I got lit on fire, you'd realize that happened a few hours ago. She loves your family. She loves you guys. So yeah, no, she's chomping at the bit. And like craft, she wants to craft with your wife as well, and daughter, and so yeah.
Oh, well, looks like we got the red light over here. We should move on to the last part here.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay, all right. So there's the last part, last but not least.
Okay.
Thank you to James Lipton, who ran the Actor Studio in New York City for many, many years. And here are the 10 questions that he asked all actors and artists that he interviewed on his show Inside the Artist's Studio. Question number 1. Whoa, almost lost my beer. Question number 1, what is your favorite word?
Compassionate.
That's a good word.
It's something that I think is very necessary.
Yes, it is. It helps us out in all parts of our lives, doesn't it?
Yes.
What is your least favorite word?
Me.
Is that your least favorite word or your least favorite person?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
All right.
There's too much of the me thought in this world. And it's an important thing to have, but it's one of those thoughts that has to be tempered, because me only works when it's me only works when it's we. You can't live by yourself. So it's just one of those things. Me is the word I don't like.
Okay. So what turns you on, creatively, emotionally, spiritually?
Diversity. And I touched on that with everything from classical music, all the different instruments, to different humans playing the same instrument sounding differently because they're filtering it through who they are. So diversity I love.
That's cool. Like where you can get a feel for where somebody comes from, culturally or geographically from how they're doing it. That's cool.
But also you can take it away from people. Let's take it to food. Let's take it to your world. Steak is great. But if you marinate it and you put some different seasonings on, diversity of flavor, it makes it better. So just diversity in general is a good thing.
What turns you off?
Closed minds.
Right.
I worked with a place where there's a lot of higher educated folks, and this PhD who I was talking with him, and he was like, "You'll never meet a room full of more stupid people than a room full of PhDs because you can't tell them anything." And this is a guy who is a PhD, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't really think about that." and so, yeah, I mean, I think closed minds, it really turns me off, and it's something that we all have to struggle with. There's those times that we do close our minds that maybe we shouldn't.
That's true. I know I'm guilty of it enough times.
Yep, I suffer as well. So,
what's your favorite curse word?
Well, I gotta go with fuck.
That's pretty versatile, huh?
It is everything. It's a noun. It's a verb. It's an adjective. It covers good. It covers bad. It is the most useful curse word. And if you're Scottish, it's not even a curse word. It's just part of how you talk.
You got an example for us?
Yeah. Well, I was hanging out with some friends, and we were joking about what would a Scottish sheep say, and we came up with "feck ba." is what a Scottish sheep says. So yeah.
That's good. Oh man, what's your favorite noise?
Well, I know Andrea would have an idea of that, but that's after maybe eating the wrong food. But beyond the violin, I gotta say the purity of the French horn is like a section of French horns just going at it is an amazing thing. So,
you know what? I agree. It's a shame that music played in high schools by high school symphonies and bands and stuff tends not to have much in the way of evolving a French horn. It's like 87 measures of rest and then one F,
yeah,
and then 27 measures of rest and then two Fs, and so nobody really gets around to playing it.
Yeah, it is impossibly hard to play because of the wind control that you have to have. Mm-hmm. But when it's played well, I'm sorry, it's the emperor of horns.
It is pure and beautiful.
Oh, it sure is. It sure is.
Yeah, it is. What's your least favorite noise?
So, I mean, it literally makes me cringe anytime I hear the sound of a violin, an instrument being destroyed. Which I struggle with because I have an electric violin that I truly loathe, and I have visions of tomahawking it onto the stage one day. But I think I'm going to donate it to someone that needs an instrument. It just I don't know. Even a bad instrument, I'm like, there's people out there that are literally making cellos from oil drums because they don't have an instrument. And an instrument that you hate might be an instrument for someone else that is just dying to have one. So, yeah, just the sound of an instrument being destroyed it kills a piece of my soul.
Yeah. Somebody loved that before you, and somebody can love that afterwards.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be treated like that, but I mean, different strokes. I get it. It's just for me. It's just not something that I enjoy being around.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, so here's the problem. I don't make a living off of music. So I make a living in a cubicle. So my profession that I wish would be musician. But if that's a little vague, I would say educator. Um, it's something that I can see, like if I get to the point beyond being able to perform live, that I would like to have, hopefully I can make enough money that I can open up a little music school somewhere and have a place to teach music, and hopefully have some other like-minded people and we just teach music and theory and um, just I want to share. I want to share what I've got, and I'd love to do that. So,
what would be the profession that you would least like to pursue?
Accounting, sewage.
Accounting and sewage in the same profession.
Yes,
I get that. Yeah, I don't want to.
sewage.
I don't want to count. I don't want to count shit.
No. Yeah.
You know what? Before we get to the last question, let's do that. Let's be educators together. We'll build a kitchen on one side, right?
Okay.
And we'll build music rooms on the other side. And in the center, we can have a lunch room that's like a multi-purpose room that's also the performance room.
That would be awesome. Because you know what? My students should come over and learn from you, because there's lots of fine control that you need in a kitchen that can translate from playing music. So we could literally transfer students back and forth, and they could come out and just be tyrannosauruses of the entertainment world. They can run restaurants and they can entertain.
As long as they're not trying to hold their knives underneath their necks.
Yeah, no. Or bowling them across the strings.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
There goes the neighborhood.
That's really good. Thanks, Cinch. Be safe and be well. I can't wait to have you and the guys back to Justin's Kitchen when all this is over. Really. I know that my patrons are chomping at the bit to see you guys back here again.
Well, we want to be there.
What'd you say?
I said we want to be there so badly.
Oh, right. Yep. And happy birthday again.
Thank you.
We just missed it, and missed your performance as well because we didn't get to have it.
Yeah.
Thank you to our technical support team, producer Abby, and technical director Sam. Yay, Abby and Sam! They're fantastic people.
Lovely people.
Related.
Yes.
Until next time, that's it for Artists Alchemy. Don't forget all the other great stuff at YubaSutter Arts virtual events coming up on Facebook. For more information, go to YubaSutterArts.org. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you later, Cinch.
Thank you. Take care. Great to chat.